లేకపోతే
నాకు మాత్రం లాస్ట్ నా పాత్ర వస్తుంది. తర్వాత వస్తుంది వచ్చేసారా? అదే
A very delightful evening to you all. Reputed guest speakers, great orators, distinguished personalities, esteemed participants. I, Dr. G. Jyoti Valivia, the coordinator of this webinar, heartily welcome you all for this one-week national webinar from FDP on history and its relevance to present scenario. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker, Dr. C.H. Swaruparani, Principal of Arts and Commerce, Acharya Nagarjuna University. Before we commence the session, let us implore and seek in God's divine and bountiful blessings.
Praising you, heavens and all that's above. Praising you, angels and heavenly hosts. Let the whole earth praise Him. Praising the sun, moon, and bright shining stars. Praising you, heavens and waters and skies.
esteemed participants, I would like to give a few instructions to you. In order to avoid inconvenience among us, kindly mute your audio and switch off your video throughout the webinar. If you have any questions regarding the topic, please post your questions in the chat box, and the queries will be clarified at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your kind cooperation. I cordially welcome Dr. Sister Teresa Madade, the correspondent of our college, Dr. Sister Shiny KP, the principal, and today's eminent speaker, Dr. C.H. Swaruparani, Principal of Arts and Commerce, Acharya Nagarjuna University, and all the esteemed participants, honorable guests, renowned faculty members, and academicians, and across the country to this webinar from FDP program organized by the Department of History, JMJ College for Women, Tenali. It's a great privilege for me to introduce our excellent speaker, Dr. C.H. Swaruparani, Principal of Arts and Commerce, Acharya Nagarjuna University, will be delivered on the topic of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's views on Indian historiography. She obtained a gold medal in MA examinations and she was qualified JRF UGC NET, and she obtained PhD from University of Hyderabad. Her research area of feudal chiefs, socio-historical relations, and appropriation of power in modified Andhra from University of Hyderabad. Her research interest areas are religious studies, gender studies, tribal studies, Dalit studies, and Buddhism, etc. Dr. C.H. Swaruparani has 28 years of teaching and research experience. During her tenure, she held many academic responsibilities in different capacities like director, chairperson of BOS, member of council, member of advisory committee, and acted as a founder, editor to the journal Charitrika Parshodhana from Potti Sri Ramulu, Telugu University, member in the editorial board of Manacharitra, member in the editorial board of Samantara Voice in respective areas. To her credit, she has guided successfully. Around 44 research scholars have been awarded PhD degrees in their respective research areas. At present, 20 PhD scholars have been working on various pertinent topics. She has completed a major research project on revival of Buddhism and Dalit identity under UGC SAP and presented before expert committee at UGC New Delhi. As an acute observer and a zealous academician, she has contributed and presented 100 research papers in both national and international conferences. She has chaired the sessions and delivered keynote and valedictory address in the seminars. She has also organized 7 seminars and workshops. She has published 100 papers in different journals and edited volumes. She has conducted 12 national seminars and workshops. She has edited 8 books and 3 creative writings. Around 12 prizes were awarded, including cash prize for poetry publication. Her poetry and short stories have been translated into English and Hindi languages. She has attended the delivered 100 invited lectures and participated in All India radio talks and television programs. In fact, she is a polyglot and multi-layered personality is now amidst us really a delightful one. Now I invite Dr. C.H. Swaruparani ma'am to take over the session on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's views on Indian historiography. Thank you, ma'am. Now over to you. Swarupurani ma'am. Ma'am, it's over to you, ma'am. participants try to understand. It's a technical problem is arised. Kindly cooperate with us.
మేడం నో వాయిస్
Yeah, sir.
వాయిస్ రావట్లేదండి.
No, no, sir. Actually, technical problem rises, sir.
It's
Please
okay.
kindly bear with us.
ఓకే జస్ట్
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Yeah, ma'am. You are audible.
ఓకే మేడం ఆడిబుల్.
I'm so sorry.
Okay, madam.
ఓకే మేడం
ఫోన్ కి అసలు సిగ్నల్ లేదు. సిగ్నల్ లేదు, వైఫై కూడా అందుకోవట్లేదు.
ఓకే మేడం ఆడిబుల్.
సో
ఓకే ఆడిబుల్ మేడం. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
At the outset, I'm thankful to the organizers of this webinar on the topic historiography, I think. So thanks to Jannamma Garu and her colleagues from JMJ College, Tenali, particularly the principal and other colleagues of JMJ College. So good afternoon to everyone, all the participants also for bearing with me. So my topic is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's views on historiography. Right, I gave this topic to the organizers. So before going to, I think it is very important, very pertinent to discuss about the schools, different schools of historiography before going to discuss, before to understand the historiography or views of Ambedkar's views on historiography. So it is better to have some idea about different schools of thought on historiography. Okay, what is historiography first? Historiography means writing of history. Writing history is technically called historiography. And we have different schools of thought on historiography based on the ideas, based on the ideological notions or standpoints of the historians. We classify the schools into several schools of historiography. First one is Oriental historiography, Orientalist. So it was initiated by colonialists or British historians or British scholars. So before that, there was no historiography. History is there, but writing history is very less, very less. So colonial rulers or colonial scholars like J.S. Mill, they thought that Indians have no history, and they don't know writing history also, and they have initiated history, historical writings, that is colonial historiography, or that time we call it as Oriental historiography. So Orientalists basically they depend upon the scholars, indigenous scholars or Indian scholars who are well versed in Sanskrit or who are well versed in literary scriptures or Hindu mythological texts like Puranas, Vedas, Puranas, Smritis, and other mythological literature. So they relied on them and they wrote history. That is called Oriental historiography. And then later on, after some time, Indians thought that colonialists have no idea about Indian history, and their version of historiography or their version of historical writings are totally they humiliate the Indians, and they thought that that Orientalists say they consider that Indians do not know anything. That is white man's burden. Their burden is to learn historiography or to teach historiography also. So nationalist historians like R.C. Majumdar, Taranath, R.G. Bhandarkar, and others, they started writing history in nationalist point of view or nationalist perspective. Those days, nationalist movement was going on, and after that also, they are all nationalist historians, and they highlighted on some of the glorious, according to them, in their view, some of the glorious aspects of Indian history. And they wrote political history only. Political history also, they have highlighted some of the great emperors, great emperors or great kings like Samudragupta, ancient Ashoka, Samudragupta, Kanishka, and others. Only few kings and their biographical sketches and political history. They highlighted that we have great history. These are the kings and emperors that ruled India in ancient past, and they glorified the historical past of India in that in their writings. Right. Then, in the next phase, Marxist historiography has come. It was initiated with the Marxists. So, scholars like R.S. Sharma, D.D. Kosambi, Romila Thapar, Irfan Habib, there are a number of scholars, Marxist historians in this school. So, they say, they criticized, they denied the previous historiographies like nationalist and oriental historiographies, and they condemn their standpoint and their concepts of history, and they criticized that the previous historians or previous historical schools of thought like oriental and nationalists, they have focused only on political aspects, that too the personal interest of the kings and queens and the ruling classes, their history, their life, like that, their personal history. So they criticized like that, and they initiated and they highlighted on economic aspects, socio-economic aspects of history, and their ideology or their perspective is purely on Marxist theory, Marxist theory of class struggles. So in history, they say that in history, class struggles are the relations, the class relations only determine history, and people, the society is divided into basically two groups, that is haves and have nots. So between these two haves and have nots, there is a continuous struggle, class struggle. So this class struggle will ultimately leads to the society where there is no fight and there is no disparities in the society. So ultimately, it leads to egalitarian society, that is the proletariat dictatorship. So based on Marxist theory, these historians also have drafted or they have designed their own theory of historiography. And then after that, subaltern historiography has come into existence. Subaltern. Subaltern historians have criticized the previous historiographies like Oriental, Nationalist, and Marxist. And they say that subaltern means history from below. History from below. All the previous historiographies or historical schools of history, they have concentrated on the elite sections of the society, where there is no space to the ordinary people or the people from below. So, subaltern means history from below, of inferior rank also. So they have focused on some marginalized sections and peasant groups. Particularly, they focused on tribes, tribal revolts, and peasant revolts, women's history, and all these so far neglected areas of interest in historical writings. And they have also focused on the sources. Sources means sources of history. Previously, they relied mostly on the sources which are treated as authentic or not correct, and they started to search for alternative sources. Alternative sources means like oral traditions, oral sources, and gadgets, judicial records, vernacular literature, and all these. These are the sources for them. Subaltern history has procured the sources. Subaltern historians have procured the alternative sources to write history, and they have focused on tribal revolts like Santal revolts and Manyam revolt, and so on. Also, peasant revolts in different parts of the country. At a local level, there are many peasant revolts, like our Telangana armed struggle, peasant struggle in Telangana, and Srikakulam struggle, and other revolts in Kerala, Mopla revolt, and Tebaga revolt in West Bengal, and so on. So tribal revolts for equality, tribal revolts for their rights, their rights on land and rights for livelihood, all that. So tribals revolts for their rights on their forest produces. So their authority or their power, their autonomy over the forest lands. So like that, subaltern historians like Ramachandra Guha, Ranajit Guha, Sumit Sarkar, David Arnold, and so on. They are some of the historians in this line of subaltern historiography. So, and then we are focusing on the next phase that is sub-subaltern. Sub-subaltern means though subaltern history has condemned, has criticized the previous major trends of historiography, but still they did not focus. They have not focused on the history of Dalits. History of Dalits means subaltern here. So this trend or this kind of historiography is called as, some people or some historians are calling this as subaltern or Dalit historiography. So coming to our Ambedkar's, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's views on historiography, uh, we have to understand the background for his views or background for his writing of history. So Ambedkar's writing history is basically he was inspired by Mahatma Jyotirao Phule's ideas on history, or Mahatma Jyotirao Phule's interpretation of history. Like Jyotirao Phule, he has written, or he is the first one in the 19th century to interpret or to reinterpret the version of history or version of the Sanskrit sources or Sanskrit literary texts, because uh, he says that the Brahmanical system or Brahmanical literature, their mythological texts have, they were utilized, they used their text to manipulate, to subjugate, for subjugation of the Sudras and Atisudras. So, Hindu religious texts were uh, exploited or employed by the Brahmanical scholars to subjugate the lower communities, particularly Sudras and Atisudras. And also, their texts were they started inscribing the false identities on different castes. So, according to Phule. So, as Ambedkar considers Jyotirao Phule as his one of the teachers, he has three teachers. He says he has three gurus. One is Buddha, and another one is Kabir Das or Kabir, Sant Kabir, and Jyotirao Phule. So Jyotirao Phule's notions on history or his interpretation of the texts, Vedas, Puranas, and Smritis, and all mythological texts of the Hindus in non-Brahmanical perspective. He started interpreting the text in non-Brahmanical perspective. And he says that, Phule says that the true history will unravel the trickery of Brahmin caste, and will lead the downtrodden caste to resist it. Means the true history will reveal the downtrodden people about the trickery of the Brahmanical conspiracies against them in subjugation of those communities. And also, if the downtrodden caste recovered their history, if the downtrodden communities recovered their history of their stories, their struggles against the oppressive and unjust system, definitely they would revolt against it. They know the history, their real history of their fights against the unjust system or injustice. Definitely, they try to fight against that system, and also they would demolish the conspiracy of the system after knowing their original history. So that is very important. These days, why I have chosen this topic also the same thing. These days, in our recent times, history is being totally neglected. History not only as subject but also uh, the history of people's struggles, history of people's movements, particularly movements of people's movements like women's movements, movements from downtrodden sections and their history, particularly, it is removed. it is being removed or deleted from the text or our curriculum. At the school level, NCRT is removing the history of people's struggles. History of if we don't know our struggles, or if the downtrodden sections do not know about their historical past of their struggle against the system, they will accept. They will accept whatever is given, whatever is there. They think that maybe it is true. It is true, and we need not resist that. So, if they know their past, if they know their real history of their struggles during the past on several occasions, definitely they will fight against the unjust system. So, recently the story of Nangeli from Kerala on breast tax that history or that those lessons are removed from the this NCRT syllabus. So similarly, many of the stories or many of the occasions of people's movements or people's movements histories are being removed and making the people that they are not aware of, or they are totally ignorant about their struggles. So that is happening. That's why I have chosen this topic to again restate that downtrodden sections of this country, particularly, they were having the glorious past of their own, and it should be again known to others, our participants and our students also. So Umesh Bagade, a scholar of history from Maharashtra, he says that Phule's hermeneutical exercise, Mahatma Phule's hermeneutical exercise, offered a different etymological meaning and materialist interpretation of myths and traditions, and unfolded the social strife between Aryan Brahmins and non-Aryan Sudra Atisudra sections. Phule's interpretation of history, definitely, he has given the new meaning or different etymological meaning and materialist interpretations, because all those Sanskrit texts which were used by the colonial and post-colonial or nationalist historians also, they have relied and they have depended upon the Sanskrit text for their historical writings. So, Phule has denied that. And he gave the new interpretation or materialist interpretation to the text, the so-called mythological text. And coming to Ambedkar, he has carried forward the interpretations of his guru, that is Mahatma Jyotirao Phule, and Ambedkar has confronted with the colonial and nationalist historians, even Marxism also. During Ambedkar's time, only colonial and nationalist historiographies have already written. They were available, and Marxism was there, but Marxist historians were not yet developed. But at that time, only the two first schools of thought, like colonial and nationalist historians, and their texts or historical writings were there available, and but still Marxism was there, but Ambedkar has criticized Marxist on some extent, but he was influenced by Marxism. And Ambedkar has confronted the hegemonic designs of colonial and nationalist historians, and says that though nationalist historians dismissed the colonial writings, but still they have also followed the same trends in writing history. There is nothing is new in nationalist histories also. Same thing is carried by the nationalist or patriotic historians. And then he says, the Ambedkar says that an historian ought to be exact, sincere, and impartial, free from passion, unbiased by interest, fear, resentment, or affection, and faithful to the truth, which is mother of history. Truth is mother of history. According to Ambedkar, truth is the mother of history. To a preserver of great action, the enemy of oblivion, the witness of the past, the director of the future. And in short, he must have an open mind, thought it may not be an empty mind, and readiness to examine all evidences, even though to be spurious. Means even though the sources, sometimes sources are spurious, but still with his sincere efforts, historian must be a sincere and impartial in understanding and in analyzing the sources. That is the notion of Ambedkar on the sources and the role of historian in writing history or reconstructing the history. And also he says that Brahmins, Brahmins, Brahmin, a learned men, are class conscious. They are not intellectuals who are emancipated from class conditioning. They are severely limited by the anxiety to preserve their interest. The subjective position of Brahmin does not allow his intellect full play with honesty and integrity. Brahmin scholars search is not for accomplishing historical truth, but is intended to maintain the sanctity of Sanskrit scriptures. So that is his opinion about the scholar, the Brahmanical scholar, who provides source for writing history or who interprets history. Also, as a historian, Brahmin scholar never, he always stand for surviving to protect his interest of his class. He says that he never, he always for his, he work for his class interest. And also, they are not intellectuals. They are not intellectuals. They are the manipulators of the sources. And also, he says that Ambedkar says that Brahmin, devoid of the critical approach always. He is devoid. Devoid means he doesn't listen to the critical approach and always took pride in their traditions. He feels that his tradition is very great and pride tradition. And they portray that Hindu past as stories bluntly and bluntly defended the social order based on Hindu scriptures. Means he bluntly protect or support the Hindu scriptures which are baseless. And also he started his historical writing with the criticism of the Brahmanical scholars who defend the irrational scriptures, baseless scriptures. There is no rationality at all in their scriptures. All the stories of Hindu mythology or these scriptures are baseless, no evidence, and they don't stand for any test. They don't stand for any test. There is no rationality. There is no logic at all. And then, according to national historians, Ambedkar says that national historians are positivists. They held the individuals are accountable. They are responsible for their deeds. But Ambedkar he is completely different from their standpoint, and he says that institutions are the systems are the responsible this thing. They are responsible. Individual is part of the system, part of the institution and part of the system. So he attacks the institutions like caste as an institution, untouchability as its practice, and overall that state, Congress, colonialism, and overall immensely the system of Brahmanism. Brahmanism is for him, it is casteism. So he condemns or he attacks the institutions, not the individuals. But nationalist historians and positivists and other historians, they make the individual to be responsible or accountable for his deeds. But Ambedkar has he attacked the institutions. He criticized the institutions, not the human beings, not the individuals. He says that individuals who do wrong or who behaves like beasts are the part of the system. And then about sources also, about sources of history also, Ambedkar always search for alternative sources. Alternative sources means he is the trained anthropologist. Ambedkar is being the trained anthropologist. He relies on the sources of anthropology, anthropological data for his writing history. And also, he respects or he prioritized the oral sources, oral traditions or oral sources. He gives priority for that. And also, uh, he says that these oral traditions, he also collected, he has undertaken the project on
Madam.
hello,
Ah,
hello.
madam. Your
Yeah, yeah.
voice, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, madam.
Okay, na? Okay, na?
Okay. Ah, okay.
Mm. Okay. So he says he searched for the alternate sources as an anthropologist because he is a trained anthropologist and he relies his sources are anthropological data, and also he respects or he gives priority to the oral traditions also because he has undertaken the oral traditions or collecting the oral traditions on the local belief system of the Mahars or their worship, their mode of worship to the village goddesses or village deities in Maharashtra. So, oral traditions and customs and those observations, personal observations, also very much useful in understanding the people's history according to him. And also uh, sources to ascertain the historical facts and to formulate the laws of Indian history in accordance with the universals of world history. So he followed the comparative method of Indian history, comparison between Indian history and similar aspects of world history also. So wherever the similarities are there, he always follows the method of comparison in his writing history. And also, he is more advanced than Phule, though he considers Phule as his guru and he carried forward his legacy of interpreting history. But still, Ambedkar is more advanced in interpreting ancient history or this mythological texts, and he juxtaposed different versions of the same myth from different texts and deduced the facts from them. And gathered, he gathered corroborative evidences from other sources or authorities in support of the facts. So corroborative sources also he has gathered for his writing of history. In several processes, uh, sorry, and his writings, particularly his writings on who are Sudras and revolution and counter-revolution in ancient India. These are some of the historic writings of Ambedkar. And then, uh, hello,
Ma'am. Ma'am.
hello,
Ma'am.
yeah.
Okay.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, in his local traditions, in his interpretations of local traditions, he has taken the local practices, but also etymological meanings, like linguistic meanings of different terminology or different words used during the worship of the local gods and goddesses, like Vitova, the worship of Vithoba in Maharashtra. That is, he has identified that Vithoba tradition with Buddhist tradition. And also the meaning of Punnalik as lotus, and traced it to Buddhist lineage. So similarly, in his writing of Who Are Sudras and Revolution and Counter-Revolution and Buddhism, Buddha and his Dhamma, and all these texts, all these works of Ambedkar reflect his interpretation of history. So he started, reinterprets the first Vedas, Manusmriti, Bhagavad Gita, and so on. And he says he approached the scriptures with rationalist and metalist approach, metalist interpretation. Because in these texts, as I told you, there is no logic, no rationality. That's why he condemns them and interprets in his metalist approach. Like in Puranas, there are snakes. There are snakes. Nagaloka, Nagakanya, all these. There is a loka under the soil or under the ground. But it is not there. According to Ambedkar, it is false interpretation of those scriptures. And he says that instead of the egg-born Nagas, there is a Naga race. There is a human race called Nagas, who are the original inhabitants of this country, original people of this country, and they were the rulers. And in course of time, Aryans have invaded those Nagas and subjugated them as slaves. That is his interpretation. And also regarding the Rakshasas, mythological texts, these Vedic or mythological scriptures say that after subjugation of the Nagas, or the original inhabitants of this country, they have branded them as Rakshasas. Rakshasa, like they are having the ఇవన్నీ ఉన్నట్టు కొమ్ములు ఇవన్నీ ఉన్నట్టు పెద్ద టీత్ ఉన్నట్టు their appearance they have described, gave the description of the ugly description regarding those Nagas who are already defeated by them. So after the defeat of those Nagas, they gave negative description or very this description, ugly description about those already defeated people as Rakshasas. There is no race like Rakshasas. They are nothing but the non-Aryan indigenous people of this country. And then he has followed the normative method and tenets and of liberalism in understanding these scriptures. And on the other way, he has unraveled the historical social institutions in the context of these texts in a materialist point of view. And he thought that all texts, in all these texts, the Sudras or the Atisudras are subjugated. All the texts must be scrutinized. All those mythological texts must be scrutinized, and eventually they have to defend themselves to in the battlefield of the ideas. So these texts, those texts which are written by the scholars of Vedic scholars, are to be scrutinized, and they must stand for the reasoning. But they don't stand. But in the battlefield of ideas, they must be scrutinized. And then his hermeneutical point of view, uh, his hermeneutics are very close to Jyotiba Phule, and it unfolded the socio-political undercurrents of history, and explained the intricate dynamics of structural and institutional uh, progression of the history. So undercurrents, his interpretations of history or his interpretations of the scriptures definitely unfolded the undercurrents of socio-political undercurrents, particularly in the dynamics of structural and institutional progression of this country. And also regarding this Ambedkar's interpretation of ancient Indian history, it was criticized. It was criticized by the Marxists. But initially, Ambedkar was also influenced by the Marxist historian or Marxism, and later he condemned or he criticized the Marxist interpretation of only economic theory or class orientation. But he questioned the assumption of European Marxism that class struggle is sole determinant of history. And Ambedkar's theory of social conflict accepted caste class as social categories of exploitation and domination. But primarily, he emphasized Indian history as a history of caste struggles. Marxists say that it is class struggle and class interest or class struggle only determines the history. But Ambedkar says that it is caste struggles. He says that it is the struggle between Indian history totally. His statement is Indian history is the history of the struggle between the Buddhism and Brahmanism. In ancient India, particularly, there was continuous struggle between Buddhists and these Vedic scholars, Buddhist and Vedic scholars. So during the period of Ashoka's grandson, that Pushyamitra Sunga's period, Pushyamitra Sunga has killed the great grandson of King Ashoka, Brihadrata, and he has occupied the throne. So after occupation of the throne, Pushyamitra Sunga has totally concentrated on killing or destruction of Buddhist monuments, killing of the Buddhist monks, and converting them as the Vedic institutions. So, according to Ambedkar, during ancient India, there was a counter revolution. Revolution is Buddhism. Revolution for him is Buddhism. It rejects the authority of the Vedas and laid stress. Buddhism has laid stress on egalitarianism and equality between different classes, equality between men and women, and ultimately it is for liberation of the human beings from all sorts of the chains. But this period, during the Sangamitra period, Brahmanical sections have started counter-revolution against the revolution, that is Buddhism. So he has conceptualized that struggle as counter-revolution, on the original revolution. And during that time only, Pushyamitra Sunga, after killing of the Mauryan king, the Buddhist king, he has established his kingdom, and also he has initiated or he has appointed some scholars to start writing Manusmriti. So Manusmriti, the author of Manusmriti is not known to others, but Ambedkar has probed towards the writing and this overall process of writing Manusmriti and framing the ideas of the Brahmanism to subjugate the lower caste and the women also. So he says that there is a scholar called Sumati Bhargava. Sumati Bhargava is the original author of this Manusmriti, and he says that this Sumati Bhargava was appointed by Pushyamitra Sunga to write this. And in this process of writing Manusmriti, all the egalitarian ideas of Buddhism, equality, liberty, and fraternity that was taught by Buddha are totally absent. They have removed all those ideas from the land, and they have framed the ideas to subjugate the lower caste and the women. So Manusmriti is written for that purpose, and it has become the Smriti or the text, law text of ancient India. According to that, Manusmriti, Ambedkar says that Manusmriti is against the liberty of women. It condemns the intercaste marriages. It condemns the this divorce of women, and it condemns the equality between different sections. After Manusmriti, this Bhagavad Gita was written, and during that time, according to Bhagavad Gita, the creator or the God or the Lord Krishna, he himself proclaims that he himself has created all the sections, all the social classes. So he has created uh, he forecast as per their qualities. So he himself is responsible for the creation of the caste system. So Bhagavad Gita also Ambedkar has taken for his interpretation this text also, and other texts also Ambedkar has taken for his interpretation. But all these texts in ancient India, all these texts were already used, they were already utilized by the colonial and post colonial nationalist historians for their own purpose. But Ambedkar has, in a different, completely, quite different manner, he has interpreted them in his own perspective and established that ancient Indian history, and he has rewritten with his own interpretation. And Marxist historians criticize Ambedkar that he relies or he completely focuses on socio-cultural history or religious history of India. But in this manner, uh, neglects neglects the aspects of class, and he neglects the aspects of economic aspects in determination of the history. So that is criticism against Ambedkar's viewpoint on historiography. But still, recently, after the trend of subaltern historiography, many scholars of modern times are following the historical interpretations of Ambedkar or his views on historiography by having uh, having the understanding or perspective, non-Brahmin perspective, and understanding the scriptures in a different way, because all those scriptures are written as infallible. They say that conditions, they give conditions They apply conditions like it is not to be criticized, it is not to be dismissed. That is the condition. But Ambedkar says there is nothing like an infallible. Vedas are infallible according to Vedic scholars. Ambedkar criticized that why they are infallible. Everything is to be tested. Everything must be scrutinized, tested for reality, tested for reasoning, tested for logic. So, this history of realistic history, the original history of India was buried under the religious scriptures. So Ambedkar has taken the challenge. He has confronted with the already existing systems of historiography and gave the new interpretation to history by using the anthropological data. Anthropological data is always field-based data, and it gives the realistic or the original approach to the society and the history also. So with this, I stop my this thing. Shall I stop here, ma'am?
Okay, madam.
Jyoti garu.
Madam. Okay, madam. Sorry.
I'm sorry for my disturbance of phone and all.
Okay, madam. We can understand your problem, ma'am. Okay, madam. Thank you, ma'am, for your outstanding
Yeah, ordinary
presentation.
phone also very difficult.
Yeah. ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your outstanding presentation on Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's views on Indian historiography. We are really grateful to you for your availability to share your valuable thoughts and insights with us. And you have focused on Ambedkar's views on Indian historiography aligned with his broader advocacy for social and political equality and his efforts to uplift marginalized communities. Thank you, madam, for your enriching informative presentation that set a perfect platform for the webinar. Thank you once again. Yeah. Dear participants, it's time for a questionnaire. I humbly request the participants to clarify your doubts and your queries on the topic. I request the participants to clarify your doubts. Yes, I think there is no questions regarding these issues. Is there anyone to pose a question? Okay, ma'am. I hope there is no further questions. Then we will proceed to the valedictory session of the day, expressing gratitude for the fruitful day.
There is some message. Yeah, there is some message on
Okay.
Pushamitra. I missed
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thing. Thank you. Suresh garu, Mogal Chendu Suresh garu. Yeah, I missed that message, madam. Yeah, you can follow that
Okay.
message. There is a message on Pushamitra Sunga. And there is any academic writing on Pushamitra account of destroying Buddhism popularity, or it is influence also with his. When this was there any counter to stop his action and any community revolt against him or his kingdom and other subcontinent these things. Academic means there are evidences that Pushyamitra Sunga has destroyed Buddhism, means Buddhist monasteries, Buddhist monuments. He has killed number of Buddhist monks, and many monks got escaped from India to other places, and it happened. And there are evidences. Ambedkar, after Ambedkar also, there are many writings, academic writings on this account. Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Oh, ma'am. Is
Yes.
there anyone?
Yeah, it is available. Pushamitra Sangha, there are, by Buddhist scholars also, there are accounts on this.
Yes, ma'am.
On
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
disappearance of Buddhism or decline of Buddhism, this story, this account was written. And according to recent observations or recent studies, Muslims are not responsible for destruction of Nalanda Mahavidyalaya. According to the traditional scholars or other scholars, they say that uh, Bhaktiar Khilji has burnt Nalanda Mahavihara, but it is not true. All Buddhist monuments or Buddhist viharas or universities, there were almost 100 Buddhist universities in ancient India. Most of them were destroyed by the Hindu scholars or Hindu, these kings and their people. They have destroyed them. Ramila Thapar also wrote recently, Muslims are not responsible for destruction of Buddhism or Buddhist monuments. They are the Hindus. Hindus means at present Hindus. Those days they are called Vedic, followers of Vedic religion or Vedic Brahmanism.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, Nasreen or someone has raised their hand.
And raised his hand.
Tenara.
Yes.
Yeah, there are some
So open Nasreen.
messages.
Nasreen Shahid.
Yeah. Nasreen, what Nasreen is saying, I am not able to get that. Okay, general. If it is general, okay, let us leave it. If there is any serious question, please speak, Nasreen garu.
Nasreen ma'am, if you have any doubt, please ask ma'am. She is available.
Yeah, she has raised her hand.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah, just raising. She is raising her hand, but
But
there
she's
is no
not.
message.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can speak on.
Okay. Okay. So then we will proceed to the valedictory session of the day. Expressing gratitude for the fruitful day. I cordially invite Dr. Sister Shiny KP, the principal of our college, the valedictory ceremony. I deem it's a great privilege and honor for me to introduce our principal, Dr. Sister Shiny KP, to deliver the valedictory address.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
So it is an honor to address all of you today on the final day of our national webinar come FTP on Indian history and its relevance from 26th October to 1st November 2023. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to all our esteemed speakers who have shared their expertise and took us into a journey of history of India. Very especially, I thank Dr. Suruba Madam, today's speaker, for enriching all our participants with her knowledge and expertise. Thank you very much, Madam. And I thank wholeheartedly all the speakers who availed their expertise to enrich our participants. I sincerely thank all the participants who have faithfully engaged in this webinar. I encourage each one of you to continue exploring new facts about Indian history, online and offline forms, through seminars and conferences. I would like to express my gratitude to the organizing convener, Mrs. P. Jannamma, Head of the Department of History, the coordinator of the webinar, Dr. G. Jyoti Olivia, and all of the moderators for every day for their great contribution and efforts to make this webinar a great success. I sincerely thank Mr. Srikant, Sister Mary, and Mr. Murali for their invaluable technical support in facilitating the successful conduct of this online webinar over the past 7 days. We lead this online platform as we go with optimism that the knowledge and insights gained from this webinar would lead us to a more informed future. Once again, I thank you all for your valuable support and contribution. Thank you. May God bless you.
Thank you, sister, for your commendable and praiseworthy speech. Thank you. May I request Mrs. P. Jennama, the head of the Department of History, to present the 7 days report in a nutshell way.
Good evening, everyone. With pleasure and a sense of accomplishment, I would like to present the report of 7-day national webinar cum FDP on history and its relevance to present scenario from October 26 to November 1st, 2023. We have journeyed through history, exploring its profound impact of our contemporary world. Insights from our speakers and participants' discussions have been enlightening. Now I present a concise report summarizing each day's discussions. Professor G. Sudhakar, Indian National Movement, Theoretical Prospectus and its relevance today. Professor Sudhakar highlighted the enduring the relevance of Indian national movements, principles such as non-violent resistance, inclusivity, democracy, and social justice. These principles continue to offer valuable insights for positive social change not only in India but around the world. Professor D. Sujata, History of Gender and Education in India. Professor Sujata discussed the evolving landscape of gender and education in India. While progress has been made in improving women's access to education, challenges persist in achieving full gender equality in this realm. Professor Y. Venkat Rao, Application of History in Tourism. Professor Venkat Rao emphasized the importance of using history in tourism to enhance understanding of the past, so support local economics and preserve cultural heritage. History-based tourism offers travelers in impressive expressions, making a valuable segment of this tourism industry. Professor Y. Chinnarao, Dalit histories and their relevance. Professor Chinnarao underlined the significance of studying Dalit studies for acknowledging historical injustice, promoting social justice, recognizing contribution to society, preserving cultural heritage, and addressing ongoing caste-based discriminations. Professor Madhusudan Rao, Causes for the Birth of Buddhism and its Impact on Indian History. From Madhusudan Rao delivered into the causes that lead the birth of Buddhism, Gautam Buddha's lives, teachings, and the enduring the impact of Buddhism on Indian history and the world. Dr. Dolly Thomas, Relevance of History in Pre-Colonial and Colonial India. Dolly Thomas emphasized the significance of history, especially the understanding India's pre-colonial and colonial periods. Historical insights helps us embrace India's past development and the impact of colonial rule on its history. Professor C.H. Swaruparani, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's views on Indian historiography. Professor Swaruparani discussed Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's unique perspectives on Indian historiography, which focused on caste-based analysis, recognitions, historical injustice, and his contributions to the Indian Constitution and social reform. The 7-day webinar offered the comprehensive exploration of Indian histories, contemporary relevance, conveying topics such as Indian national movements, gender and education, tourism, historical roles, Dalit histories, Buddhism, influence, colonial history, and Ambedkar's historiographical views. These discussions provided valuable insights into the India's rich in its significance today. As we conclude, let's carry these lessons forward using history as a tool for positive changes. Thank you for your participations. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. But you have presented in your study. Let's move to the vote of thanks. I, Dr. G. Jyoti Valivia, the coordinator. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for you have presented in a crystal way. Now let us move to the further session, that is vote of thanks. I, Dr. G. Jyoti Valivia, the coordinator of the webinar, take this opportunity to present the vote of thanks for this national webinar from FDP on history and its relevance to present scenario from 26th October to 1st November 2023. On behalf of the management of JMJ College for Women Tenali, I would like to extend a warm and heartfelt vote of thanks to all those who made this program a resonating success. First and foremost, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our distinguished eminent speakers, Dr. G.J. Sudhakar, former professor, Dravidian University, Kuppam, Dr. D. Sujata, coordinator, Mumbai, Dr. Y. Venkatrao, professor, Pondicherry University, Dr. Y. Chinnarao, chairperson, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, Dr. Dolly Thomas, associate professor, Stella Maris College, Chennai, Dr. C.H. Swaruparani, principal of Arts and Commerce, Acharya Nagarjuna University, and facilitators for sharing their expertise and insights with us. Your knowledge and guidance have been indispensable in enriching our understanding and professional growth. I would also extend our appreciation to all the esteemed participants who actively engaged in the FDP. Your enthusiasm, dedication, and commitment and active participation have contributed to the program's success. Your commitment to learning and professional development is truly commendable. A special thanks goes out to our organizing committee convener, Mrs. P. Jennamma, head of the Department of History, Dr. Amul Mary, Department of Computers, Dr. N. Vimala Devi, Department of English, Anuja, Department of Botany, K. Arunodaya, Department of Physics, without whom this FDP would not have been possible. Your hard work and meticulous planning ensured that everything ran smoothly from the selection of topics to the logistics of the program. As we are also grateful to the supporting staff, P. Murali and K. Srikant, Ravi and Bhargavi for their technical assistance and who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure a seamless experience for all attendees. Last but not least, a huge thanks to our management for their unwavering support in fostering a culture of continuous learning and professional development within our institution. Dear participants, I would like to wind up this webinar with a few announcements to this. Feedback form will be shared in the chat box and WhatsApp group within half an hour. All those who registered and participated in the webinar from FDP will receive their certificates through the WhatsApp group within half an hour. You can download them from WhatsApp group. If there is any corrections in the certificates or queries, you can post it to the convener's WhatsApp number. The corrections will be rectified. So once again, I thank you all for making this webinar very effective and successful. Let us continue to learn, grow and inspire one another in our pursuit of excellence. Thank you once again and have a great day ahead. Thank you one and all.
So once again, thank you all. So we will meet in the next webinar. Thank you.